Tina Sophos and welcome to GRTV Australia. We're currently in the heart of Melbourne at Southgate, enjoying the beautiful views of the Yarra River. We have an exciting show for you. Peter Ziggy catches up with comedian, actor, producer Simon Palomares from Acropolis now. We then cross over to DJ Nick Missilides at Lakeside Receptions with Greek Beat, and Nick will also be featuring a classic music clip from the past. And to close the show, I'll be heading up to Enna Greek Street Food, and they'll be showing us how to cook seafood minestra.
Yassa, Ziggy here, and welcome to GRTV. Now, today we have a special guest who takes us a little way back. For those of you who don't know who Simon Palomares is, watch this.
Man to man, Greek to Spagnolo. How was the holiday?
It was good.
No, I mean, how was the holiday?
I met a very nice, intelligent, attractive lady. And nothing happened.
Why not?
Because I didn't have the nerve to make a move, that's why.
Ricardo, when are you going to learn? Look, if you want your calculator to give you a results, what do?
You push the right buttons.
Did she mind?
Yes, that was Simon Palomares, better known as Ricky on Acropolis now. Simon, welcome to the show.
And good to be here.
Well, thanks for coming on. Now, you guys had an amazing time on Acropolis. Now, we had so much fun watching it. Was it fun making it?
Yeah. I mean, it was actually I was having a catch up with Tim Woods, who was the original producer of Wogs at Work a couple of days ago, and halfway through the conversation, he said, "Oh, by the way, happy anniversary tomorrow." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, it's 30 years since the first performance of Wogs at Work."
Wow, 30 years.
It's been It's quite weird to sort of like think of a 30-year period in your life, but that's when that was the first comedy festival. That's when we started, and and then from then just the show just catapulted into this incredible hit that just kept growing and growing and growing until we got to Acropolis now.
Yeah,
and it's all new. It's all whole new concept. I think it was probably the last sitcom in Australia that was filmed in front of a live audience. To this day, still have people, coming up to me at some point saying, I watched the show, I grew up with that show, all that sort of thing. Tall, beautiful women who come up to me and say, my mum used to sit me in front of the television to watch you, and I go, oh, okay.
Now, it was the first time that really as ethnics, let's call ourselves, we started to take the piss out of ourselves.
Yeah.
How did you find it at the time in terms of some of the feedback around ethnics generally? Was it well accepted?
It was always well received because it was the first time that people. I mean, to me, it was one of those things where when I used to watch people in the audience, I used to think, wow, I wish I was in the audience. I wish I had that experience of going to a theatre and seeing, and being able to identify so closely to what I'm watching on stage, because you could see people who basically thought that their family was the only one like that, because they went to school, they went to work, and and everybody was from different backgrounds, and then they sort of went home to this other Greek or Italian or Spanish household, and then suddenly to be in a theatre with 1,000 people who were all laughing at the same thing, suddenly there's a sense of freedom that, wow, I'm not the only one who lives like this. I'm not the only one whose mother is like that or whose father is like that, and all that sort of, and so on. So there was a great sense of freedom and celebrating. Did we get criticism? We actually got banned in a few places because the whole idea of using the word wog and all that sort of thing. A couple of we couldn't register the name in New South Wales. We got banned from playing the commercials in South Australia. So there was all this polemic issues that are going on behind the scenes all the time. Usually from people saying you can't say that because it offends Mediterraneans, and we used to say, but that's our audience, right? So it was sort of like somebody trying to protect our very own audience from us, until eventually sort of it became so obvious that, because at the end of the day, what we were doing was just celebrating our culture and celebrating who we are. I find it really interesting that, who was it, Tahir and Rob from the guys from Pizza Show, and they did a show called The Habibis. Here Come the Habibis recently.
Yep.
And I found it fascinating that in all their interviews, every single one of the interviews that I heard as they were promoting that show, always reference back to Acropolis now, and I think it says a lot that in that 25-year period, there really hasn't been, that I can think of, there hasn't been another show on a commercial network that actually has an ethnic cast in that sense. So, it's been a long time between drinks in that sense.
Yeah. So you then started doing a lot more stand-up comedy? Is that what happened? Or was that only last 10 years?
I did everything. I think it's sort of like, sort of like family came along, kids. All
they always get in the way, don't they?
Always get in the way. Then did a lot of writing, directing. I ended up directing Neighbours for about a year.
Yep.
And then went back into stand-up. Did quite a few shows with George Capinaris after that, around the country. And then did Dago as well with Joe Avati for many years. Sort of like this projects come up one after the other, and sort of like, okay, well, sort of like every 2 years there's a new project that takes you onto another thing, and you tour that for a few years, and then you go onto something else. Then about 7, 8 years ago, I went to Spain. I was sort of like, I had some family stuff to do over there, and while I was there, the Spanish stand-up comedy scene was just coming up, so I actually went and did some open mics in Spanish, started performing in Spanish, and then that sort of took off over there, and worked for Comedy Central in Spain, and then fell in love with working in Spanish-speaking countries, and I go to Argentina, I went to Bolivia last year, Uruguay, Peru, do a stand-up in Spanish over there.
Now, you were telling me off camera, Bolivia. How many people at the Bolivia?
I was in a bar in Bolivia in La Paz with 6 comics, and that was the entire comedy population of the country.
If it grosses something mega, you'd be able to say, I was there right at the beginning.
I was there at that gig.
Excellent.
We did the same thing in Buenos Aires. I went teaching comedians in Buenos Aires about 6 years ago, yeah. And that was, we had a class of 50 comedians, 30 from Buenos Aires in Argentina. 20 came from the country next door, from Uruguay to the class. And they went back and sort of like started a whole other new circuit of stand-up comedy. And you see all these little places that sort of like start developing, and they start doing taking their comedy all over the country and developing, and it's just great to be part of emerging comedy scenes in different places.
Yeah, I love it. Well done. Yeah. Well, matey, thanks for appearing on the show. It's been great talking to you, and also getting the background of Ricky, the character at Acropolis now, and how it's all sort of developed. One final question: how do you see comedy today compared to back then? Any similarities? I guess there's big difference because the mediums have changed. The
medias have changed. I mean, television has changed. Performance-wise, still the same. There's a same thing. It's a lot of comedians, a lot of stand-up, a lot of things. Every now and then you have, someone like Tim Minchin comes along. Probably every 5 years, there's somebody who just like comes out and just like kicks you in the head and go, wow, they've changed the rules of comedy. This is new. Every now and then there's a Robin Williams that you go, okay, comedy has now, we thought this was comedy, and then Robin Williams comes along and he goes, no, this is comedy, what I'm doing over here. And every now and then there's somebody who comes along, like a Tim Minchin or Sam Simmons in Australia, and they're the people who sort of change. For the rest of it, there's a lot of comedians, a lot of people sort of doing their job, and if I have to say what drives me, it's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing, man. But food drives me. Okay,
you're an ethnic. Most of the time.
But the thing is, this is the weird thing. It's like if I find out, for example, that you get the most amazing steak in the world in Buenos Aires, I'll get a gig there. I'll get a gig there, right? All right. If I find, right, if I find like a little town in Greece that says that's where they make the best galaktoboureko in the world, I'll get a gig there just so I can go and eat that.
All right. Well, you get the gig there, and we'll come along. And
That's what it is. That's what drives me first. Yeah.
we'll have to get a gig on Santorini or Mykonos or one of those, and we'll just
Absolutely.
Hey?
Yeah.
Very nice. Simon Palomares, thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show.
Thanks, mate.